Hello, John Zimmerman with homeschoolmathquiz.com, and this is your place for you homeschoolers out there to kind of practice what you've been studying with math. So here's a quick pop quiz for you here. So the question is, find the value of the variable using the Pythagorean theorem. So very straightforward, I would say. Definitely at the pre-algebra level, middle school level, you should have been introduced to this. So it's a pretty straightforward problem, and let's suppose right now you don't know anything about the Pythagorean theorem. So before I show you the answers to this quiz, maybe you want to look it up. Maybe I want to do a little quick research and see if you can take the quiz. It's pretty straightforward. But anyways, hopefully you had a chance to try to answer this and pause the video and let's take a look at the solution. All right, so first of all, you have to know what the Pythagorean theorem is. Okay, so the Pythagorean theorem, and here it is right here. It's kind of a little bit of a tongue twister. The Pythagorean, it's named after a person, Pythagoras, and this was a very smart person way back in the day, did a lot with math, etc. But anyways, what this theorem states, and by the way, I should really, let me scroll up here. Let me just deviate real fast. So we have Pythagorean, that's the name of something called a theorem. A theorem in mathematics is basically like a rule. Now there's more of a technical explanation for it, but you can kind of think of it as a rule that we can follow, or a property. Okay. All right. So it's the Pythagoras rule, if you will. And let me scroll back up here. So anyway, so what does it say? Okay. Well, first of all, the Pythagorean theorem tells us how the sides of a right triangle relate to one another. Okay, so here we have a triangle. It has to do with triangles, but not all triangles. It has to do only with right triangles. And a right triangle is a triangle that has one side that has 90 degrees. Okay, it's a 90 degrees right, a perfect corner, perfect square, if you will. And that's indicated by this little square here. So if you see a triangle with that, that means it's a right triangle. So all kinds of cool things happen once you're dealing with right triangles. A lot of theorems, a lot of rules kick in. And one of the most famous and probably the most powerful is the Pythagorean theorem. So how does it work? Okay, or what's the purpose of it? Well, the purpose is this. If we know two sides of a right triangle, we can find the third side. So here's basically the theorem, right? So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A, okay, is one side of the right triangle, not this side. This is called the hypotenuse. So it could be this side, for example, or the other side. B, likewise, is one of these sides here, okay, that make up this right triangle. So let's call this B, okay. Now C here is the hypotenuse. It's always the hypotenuse. It's the longest side of the triangle. So basically, the sum of the squares of the side is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. That's how it goes. So you can see here we have we have the values for A and B, but we're looking for C. That's our variable, right? So let's go ahead and actually do the math here, and it's pretty straightforward. So let's see. I'm going to put, well, actually I kind of had this reversed a bit, but that's okay. So 4 squared, or it could have been 5 squared, because you can see we're going to get the same answer. 4 squared plus 5 squared, that's the sum of the square of the sides, is going to equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So that's what we have right here. So 4 squared is 16 plus 5 squared is 25. Okay, and that's equal to x squared. So 16 plus 25 is 41. Okay, so what does that equal? What does that mean? Okay, well, 41 is equal to x squared. So if I want to find x, all I have to do is take the square root of both sides. Okay, the square root of x squared is x. And so here, when I do that, the square root of 41 is equal to the square root of x squared, so x is equal to the square root of 41. And then you can go into your calculator and find an approximation. Let me actually do that real quick. So let's see here. Looking at my calculator. Okay, square root of 41 is about 6.4, let's call it. So x is equal to around 6.4. That's just an approximation. And if you look at our triangle, does that make sense to you? Yeah, it would, right? This is the longest side. If we're calling that 6.4 and this side 5 and that side 4, the numbers make sense. And that's something you always want to do when you're taking a quiz or a test, is look at your answer and say, hey, does this make sense? Because let's suppose x came out to be 1057. And that wouldn't make sense, right? We have a triangle with a length, a hypotenuse length of this, and its other side being 5 and 4. All right, so hopefully you did fine on a quiz, and if it was too easy for you, well, I invite you to come on over to homeschoolmathquiz.com and take more pop quizzes with us, and have a great day.